Hey there fellow cake friends, and welcome to this week's tutorial. Every once in a while I want to try something a little different, so this week I'm going to share with you my decadent rich chocolate cake recipe. We're going to use simple techniques with really high quality ingredients, and this is going to give you a deliciously chocolatey result every single time. Trust me, you're going to want to give this recipe a try. And next week we're going to be decorating the cake too. I'll have a printable PDF recipe in the description box below. And before we get to caking, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more baking videos, and give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go, and let's get to the recipe. We hit 1,000 subscribers this past week. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you watching, commenting, and subscribing so much. I can't wait to make more videos for you. Alright, first we'll prepare our ingredients, or if you want the fancy French term, mise en place. I'm giving you the recipe for two 6-inch diameter cakes, which is about 4.5 cups of batter. Also preheat your oven to 350 degrees or 180 Celsius. I'll jump right into the recipe, but first you have to tell me in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a chocoholic are you? I think I'm about a 25. Start by scaling 210 grams of pastry flour into a medium bowl. Next, measure out 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder and 1/3 teaspoon of baking soda. For small amounts like this, it's better to use your spoon measurements versus scaling. Now I'm scaling 95 grams of Dutch cocoa powder on top of the flour. I love and only use cacao berry extra brut cocoa powder. I'll have a link in the description box below so you can find it. If you want a delicious chocolate cake, you need a high quality cocoa powder. Add your leavening ingredients on top of your dry ingredients. We're going to sift the dry ingredients in a second, but I'll give it a quick whisk first to distribute everything evenly. One great thing about making chocolate cakes is that you can really see visually when all the ingredients have been incorporated, so you don't have to guess. Next, we'll sift the dry ingredients. This is an important step in cake making because things like cocoa powder, baking soda, and pastry flour can be lumpy and compacted coming out of a container. You don't want those lumps in your cake, so you have to sift it. Another benefit is making all the dry ingredients light and fluffy. If you've ever struggled with dense cakes, this could be one reason why. So I'm just taking small batches of my dry ingredients, as much as I can fit into the sieve at one time, and whisking them directly into a bowl. Comment below and tell me what your favorite flavor to pair with chocolate cake is. I absolutely love caramel and Earl Grey Italian meringue buttercream. You can try out my favorite Italian meringue buttercream recipe by clicking the link in the top right corner of this video. And if you really want to get into the weeds of buttercream cake making, you can check out my buttercream class called Creative Buttercream Cakes, Sharp Corners to Modern Textures in the description box below. I'm just pushing some of the dry ingredients, the little lumps that are left here, and then we'll move on. Now that our dry ingredients are aerated and beautifully fluffy, we're going to give them one final whisk to make sure everything is evenly distributed. You'll need 3 large eggs for this recipe. Crack them into a small bowl or container. You don't want to crack them directly on top of any ingredients just in case you need to fish out some shells. I crack them on a flat surface so no particles of eggshell will sneak into my bowl. In your stand mixer's bowl, or a large bowl if you're using a hand mixer, scale out 175 grams of granulated sugar and 175 grams of brown sugar. I like dark brown sugar to add extra flavor. Add 1 shy teaspoon of salt directly onto both of the sugars, and then place your cracked eggs directly on top. In a large container or measuring cup, scale 160 grams of buttermilk, then scale 100 grams of neutral oil, like canola or vegetable oil, into the same container. We're on to the last ingredients before we get to mixing the cake. Scale 155 grams of hot water into a container and mix in 1 teaspoon of espresso powder, which is optional but highly recommended. It won't add coffee flavor, it will just boost the chocolate flavor and give it more depth. Grease your pans with oil spray or butter. I'm using 3-inch tall pans from Crown Cookware, which I'm going to link to below because I love the quality, but you can use 2-inch tall pans and they'll work just fine. Add a parchment round to the bottom of your pans. I purchased these pre-cut, and if you make a lot of cakes, these pre-cut parchment rounds are a life changer. Make sure they're really stuck down in all the corners, then we'll get to mixing up our batter. Use the whisk attachment on your stand mixer, or a hand mixer works great here too. I'll turn the mixer onto medium speed, which is 5 on my KitchenAid. Let the sugar mixture whip until it's almost doubled in volume and noticeably lighter in color. This took me about 5 minutes, but it might change for you depending on the speed of your mixer. You can see here it's already starting to lighten in color, and in a moment you can see how much lighter it is and how fluffy it looks too. That looks perfect, about doubled in volume, so we're ready to move on. Pour in your oil and buttermilk mixture, then you'll turn your KitchenAid back on to stir or the lowest setting and just let it incorporate. Add about 1/3 of your dry mixture that's been thoroughly whisked. And be sure when you turn your stand mixer on, it is on the very lowest setting, otherwise you're going to have a chocolatey explosion all over your kitchen. The low speed also helps prevent overworking gluten proteins in your flour, which would make your cake gummy and dense, which we don't want. Pour in half of the coffee and water mixture and stir that gently through on low. Then add the next third of your dry mixture, and can you guess what speed we're putting it on? Low, of course, just until it's incorporated. At this point, before we add in the final liquid and dry ingredients, I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl to make sure that there isn't any sugar kind of stuck to the sides or any of those flour pockets that you see on the top edge. So give it a good scrape all the way around the sides and on the bottom of your bowl as well. Add in all of the coffee mixture that you have left and stir that through on low. And finally, add the remaining dry ingredients. Make sure you get it all in there. We scaled out our ingredients precisely, so don't let any of them get left behind. Let that quickly mix through, and then as soon as you're finished, we're going to be removing the whisk and you should be left with a nice liquidy, chocolatey batter. Give your whisk a quick scrape, and also I'm going to be scraping down the sides and the bottom of the bowl to make sure again everything is incorporated evenly. Then we're ready to bake our cakes. Divide your batter between 2 6-inch pans. If you're using a 2-inch pan, it will fill just over 3/4 of the pan, and if you're using a 3-inch pan like I am, it will fill just over half. Try not to make a drippy, chocolatey mess like I am here. I'll make sure to wipe off the drips from the pan so they don't burn when I bake the cakes. Place your cakes in the oven and don't forget to set your timer. I like to rotate them at 25 or 30 minutes. Then they may take another 10 to 20 minutes depending on your oven. Here I am rotating the cakes at the 25-minute mark. Be gentle not to bang your cake on the side of the oven or anything, otherwise it may cause them to collapse. Check your cakes by pressing on the top to see if they bounce back, and the classic toothpick test works well here. It's fine to have a couple moist crumbs stick to the toothpick when you remove it. Once the cakes are cool enough to handle, run a thin knife or spatula around the side of the tin to release it. Then you'll wrap each cake in a double layer of plastic wrap to chill in the fridge before you assemble and decorate. Next week, I'm going to show you how to decorate your cakes. If you want to see all my tips and tricks for slicing, assembling, and masking your cake, my buttercream class is available now at the link in the description box below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope you stick around to next week when we decorate this cake. Don't forget to head down to the description box below and print out your PDF recipe for the Decadent Rich Chocolate Cake. And before you head out, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you want more baking videos, and I'll see you next week. Bye.